talk about our ongoing turmoil in the LA City Council. One council member resigned yesterday. 2 others are so far resisting widespread calls to do the same.
Council itself cannot force them out. So what can it do? Eyewitness News reporter Carlos Granda is live in downtown with the very latest. Carlos?
Well, for now, tomorrow's LA City Council meeting is canceled. Acting President Mitch O'Farrell says they simply cannot go on the way it is right now. But he says he did not get the impression that those 2 council members are ready to resign today. Acting City Council President Mitch O'Farrell says he is frustrated and surprised that Gil Cedillo and Kevin De Leon have not yet resigned.
The only sense I have is what they're going through personally, probably weighing their long history in politics and public service and reconciling this transgression with that. That's just all I can imagine that they're going through. But one thing is clear. They need to put all of that past them and resign right now.
O'Farrell held a news conference to say that he is forced to cancel tomorrow's City Council meeting. Former Council President Nuri Martinez resigned from the City Council yesterday. Her resignation comes after audio posted online revealed that she and Cedillo and De Leon made racist comments that brought days of protest both inside and outside City Hall.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, put them back on the grill again. We grilling them, back on the grill again. We grilling them, You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Penniage, Jim Crow, and mass incarceration. Redline and lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. To win, you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Welcome to Reset Race, where water is wet and Latinos are anti-black like a mother. Yep. So, yes, we are talking about LA and the conspiracy amongst the anti-black Latinos to try to divert black power. And yeah, she took some time to take some shots at the other dark Latinos. That's why she was talking about the Oaxacans and the ugly little brown people, because that all rolls into anti-blackness. The darker you are, the more they hate you. And it doesn't matter if you speak Spanish too. Ask the Afro-Latinos. So we're going to have to flesh this BS out. But as a person who was an LA resident, am I surprised? No. This is how they get down. This is why black people got to speak Spanish to get a fucking job at McDonald's. And then they tell you got to be culturally, you got to be a native speaker to get a job, which means you got to be them. So here we are. Morgan, introduce yourself to the people. I'm the Khaleesi. Don't bother me on Twitter. Don't bother me in real life. I'm here. Talk to me. You can talk to me through the comments, though. I do keep up with the comments on here, and you can email us if you really feel like it. But can y'all not send like 3-page emails? Like, I'm ADD as shit. I can't read all that. Go ahead and say hi to the people, Morgan.
What's up, y'all? Morgan Malachi. Catch me on Twitter at Cali Tasked Us. Yeah, you already know. There's no POC coalition. I don't know what black and brown is. Only people of color I know is free people of color, my people again. And that's just how I'm riding. So
All right. Well, next up we have John. What's up, John?
Yeah, what's up, man? Name is John C. I'm an average American Negro, and I'm back here with the Reset Race family. Yes, they caught the Latinos on tape. I don't want to make this intro too long. We already know what this is. Nobody here is surprised. Listen to our show, you should be surprised. We've been talking about this since our first episodes, where we did an episode on Vice, how Latinos identify with. We've been trying to slowly tell you. We ain't put the heat on you. But now this is the manifestation of all of this shit. Public officials calling black children monkeys and stuff like that are Latino. So no, the Black Brown Coalition, it doesn't exist. People of color is some bullshit. And let's get the fucking grilling these anti-black people. We gotta get these motherfuckers out of here. So we gotta cook them and grill them real quick. I'm happy to be here with my family. Let's do some grilling.
I'll say hi to the people. All hell, King Killmonger.
All hail King Killmonger. I am with the blacks. That's it.
I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm black, y'all, and I'm blacker than black, and I'm black, y'all. I'm blickety black, blacker than black, I'm blacker than black, yo, because I'm black and I'm back.
Oh, damn, that's it, mic drop. And last but not least, our favorite, Mud.
Yeah, they call me Mud. You can find me on my social media, Twitter and Instagram at Of Lineage. That's OF Lineage, creator of Bitter Dose TV. I've been trying to tell you motherfuckers. I don't know if you're gonna listen. Y'all still talking that black and brown shit. Here we are. When the fuck are you gonna wake up?
And I would like to take this moment to double down on my Twitter statement. Fuck you leftists and progressives who sit here and you call Black Americans who keep talking about the immigration issue xenophobic. You talk about how we're just knuckle draggers who just, don't understand. But when we tell you these people are imported racists, you say nothing. So the rest of you leftists, white progressives, all of you can go fuck yourself. And yes, even some of you that we're buddies, you can go fuck yourself too. And this is directed directly to you. But I'm going to be nice because I don't want to send the Negroes your way to drag you, even though you kind of fucking deserve it. So let's get this going. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. Don't sit here and tell Black Americans that we have to sit here and kumbaya with these people of color when they're anti-Black racists and they're working against us. I don't want another one of these fucking people to come here if they're going to fight against me. Period. These people are in power. Black Americans are suffering in Los Angeles, and you wonder why. Because they got people like this working against them. Who needs white supremacists with POCs like this? This isn't the first time I've said that, right? Didn't I say that about Kim Iverson and them other motherfuckers? So
Sure did.
And as a caveat, thank you to the Latinos, Mexicans, Oaxacans, et cetera, who came out and dragged this bitch.
No meeting without resignation.
The protesters' voices remain loud and strong.
Get out! Get out!
As the LA City Council repeatedly tried to bring the meeting to order. No resignations, no meeting, they chanted over and over again.
Hopefully we can have the meeting and conduct the people's business.
It didn't happen. Kevin De Leon, Gil Cedillo, and so far, Nuri Martinez had not yet resigned.
I did see some Latinos getting in here, getting in the paint, dragging their people about their anti-Black racism, and not all of them was Afro-Latinos. I saw a lot of very fair-skinned, light-skinned Latinos getting in the paint, throwing the jabs. I saw the people going off of all colors at City Hall. So I am not talking about individuals from this point on. I am talking about institutions. I ain't seen La Raza come out and denounce this shit. AOC on some class bullshit.
In corrupt, racist, classist environments, systems, political situations, people in power rely on pitting communities against each other, whether it's racially, geographically, whatever. They rely on pitting, trying to get Black communities and Latino communities and Asian communities and Native communities seen as each other's enemies, white communities, rural, urban, all of it. And leaders who fall for that are not equipped to lead. And frankly, this scarcity mentality that we need to pit or be suspicious of other ethnic groups or of other types of interest groups, geography, this, that, and the other, comes from the top. It comes from a vested classist interest, racist interest, etc. Because the more you can stoke like just whatever fighting amongst ourselves is less time that we're building solidarity with one another. And we need to be able to trust each other. And if we don't have that trust, we're not going to be able to build together. That's really so much at the core of what this is about. But we've seen what the outcome of those things are. Old school political machines like from the 90s and plenty of other decades. And you know what it also yields? A lot of corruption. Because when all you care about, or any other decision on such a superficial zero-sum mentality, that is dangerous. And that is what people in power rely on in order to make sure that nothing changes.
What is it you wanted me to reconcile myself to? I was born here almost 60 years ago. I'm not going to live another 60 years. You always told me it takes time. It has taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephew's time. How much time do you want for your progress?
No, 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 no. I want to see the Hispanic caucus denounce this shit. I'm not talking about individual Latinos. There's a lot of good individuals in every race. I can point out a good Asian, a good white person, a good Guatemalan, a good Filipino. Like, if you really want, we can go out here and find one good person each. That's what we're talking about. We are talking about your institutions and how you are putting your boots on the backs of fucking Black people. So let's get into this bullshit with this bitch. Let us introduce you to LA City Councilwoman Nury Martinez, Gil Cedillo, and Kevin De Leon, which is funny because I would always get emails from that fucker asking for money.
I remember this guy. That's funny. He was in the room. All right,
yeah, in that fuck that guy, he's with the Blacks room. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was cool with this. He was just quiet, like, yeah, fuck him, they gotta do what we gotta do. They moving like white people. Well, we can get into that further in the show.
All right, let's go ahead and scroll up. Council President Martinez on DA Garcon. Fuck that guy. He's with the Blacks.
People that is a sleeping giant right now that is being woken up.
By now, you've probably heard about the LA City Council scandal involving racist comments that were leaked online. Last October, 3 LA City Council members, Nury Martinez, Kevin De Leon, and Gil Cedillo, had a closed-door meeting with LA County Federation of Labor President Ron Herrera. The meeting was secretly recorded, posted on Reddit, and first reported by the Los Angeles Times, capturing the group making racist comments and plotting political power grabs.
Let's hear it, man.
Yeah.
All the, folks like with Ascon, he did call me. He wants to have breakfast with me.
What's taking him so long?
I just said, hey, we need to talk.
Gil supported him from the...
All right, don't worry, I got you.
Yeah.
So you'll start seeing them line up. Isaac was the first.
So, if you don't know who Garcon is the DA in Los Angeles. He replaced Jackie Lacey's bitch ass, who was a Black woman who was very anti-Black. So basically, they're talking about him needing to meet up with them and then them saying like basically like fuck that guy, he's with the blacks because he doesn't hate black people and he's not trying to like come for us. Go ahead. Here's the other one. This is the one where she's talking about, so basically there's a white city councilman, him and his husband happen to have a black adopted son. So this is her talking about the other councilman's black adopted son.
Whatever the kid's name is, I'm like, it's like the oddest thing. It's like black and brown on this float, and then there's this white guy with this little black kid who's misbehaved. Este niño has they're not doing. The kid is bouncing off the effing walls on the float, practically tipping it over. There's nothing you can do to control him. Parece changuito. And I'm just like, oh my God.
But she's basically calling him a little monkey.
So changuito, it doesn't mean outlaw, it means monkey. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean
she's
black,
basically
brown,
calling him a little monkey. But this is my thing, right? I've been around kids of all colors. Can we just say that little boys like to run around and play because that's what kids do?
Nah, that's what all kids do. All kids are kids.
Go ahead, Mo. I'm sorry.
I think that Child Protective Services should be visiting her home. If that's,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what's going on with that, but that sounds like an abuser.
So this is the thing, right? I've seen a lot of people be like, "Oh, well, Mexican culture, we call our kids monkeys, da 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 da." I don't give a fuck. This is America. She was born here. You understand that you cannot call black people monkeys because it's racist. I don't give a fuck. You have to learn how to be culturally sensitive for where you live. I live in the United States and I cannot make disparaging jokes about Jews. I can't talk about wanting to put Jewish people in anything. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't give a fuck. Oh, well, we call our kids monkeys in our culture. But in America, there is a degrading history of calling black people monkeys. So you can't do it. The same way we don't allow people to use other Jewish stereotypes that were used to dehumanize them and make it more okay for the Holocaust. We not doing that. So I don't give a fuck if it's your culture. Welcome to America. Change your fucking culture.
Why do you think that sometimes in Latin American culture, because this is everywhere, I'm Puerto Rican and African American, and so I've even seen it, in Puerto Rico, but why do you think there is a resistance to loving Blackness or to celebrating Blackness?
Well, it all started when the slavery happened in all over Latin America, and the conception that being Black is being less of a person, and the governments that abandon our communities for decades or centuries. It makes, when it's institutional, everybody sees a Black person as less, as the poor, and everybody wants to identify with the white, with the European. And let me tell you something, that racism that exists in our countries migrates with us to the United States. We can see the same thing here in the United States. Everybody that is not Black that come to the United States wants to relate to the white, to the fair skin or lighter skin.
Can we run around here saying slurs against Latinos? If they found audio of any Black politician doing this type of shit, but just using, different terminology for Latinos, there would not be any, people need to be understanding of our culture. There's not going to be any of that conversation.
If this was a white person, if this was a bunch of white people having this discussion on the city council, everybody would resign already.
I mean, it's just this weird dynamic with the Latinos and Black people where apparently they get to say crazy shit about us, and we're supposed to be understanding because they are like an oppressed group of people. They are minorities. They're people of color too. But for some reason, this shit never works the other way around. No one is ever understanding of us. whenever we say anything, it's always taken in the worst light, and we're never given any grace.
So I want to go deeper because, I've been in my telenovela space, right? So what happens when we talk about what's going on in the violence? Well, that's Black on Black crime. What do they talk to us about these Latinos? Oh, where they come from, there's gangs, there's wars. That's Latino on Latino crime. That's Colombian on Colombian crime. That's Mexican on Mexican crime. The fuck that got to do with me? That's what y'all tell us about Black on Black crime, right? Allegedly.
But you notice that you're never going to hear anyone say Latino on Latino crime.
Yeah.
That is never a phrase ever used.
I'm going to start using it.
Even though it's like, it's not like the stereotype of the criminality has not just been only applied to Black people. They've applied that stereotype to, Latino gang members and all this stuff. But for some reason, we just get an extra layer of stigma. Like, it's like, there's like an extra layer of hate that no other group seems to get, regardless of what their behavior or what the fuck is going on, their culture, or whatever little bullshit thing that people try to throw at us. It never seems to go as deep with these other groups.
Latino Heritage Month for me means, the representation of Latinos in Los Angeles. Not seeing too many people that sounded like me, that looked like me in positions of power. Who would have dreamt that a daughter of immigrants raised in Pacoima in the Northeast San Fernando Valley would be the first Latina council president in 170 years? Our parents worked really, really hard in this country to make the American dream happen for our families, and now to see us leading the way, it's not only incredibly rewarding, but it's something to really thank our parents for. My Mexican culture, our traditions and our values are centered around religion and food, and our language is so important. Politically, or in the business sector, or in Hollywood, in the arts, no matter what part of Los Angeles you're in, you will come across the Latino community or the Latino culture. I would say to really, I think to the younger generation, is to really be proud of who you are. I think identity is important. I think honoring where your parents came from and honoring their values and what they instilled in us is something that I hope that doesn't get lost with future generations.
There are a lot of people here that need to be heard today.
A raucous scene greeted the start of a Los Angeles City Council meeting after the leak of an audio tape revealed councilors using racist language and singling out a white council member's Black adopted son for mockery.
I am reeling from the revelations of what these people said.
That councilor, Mike Bonin, spoke tearfully at the meeting about the pain and hurt he and his husband felt.
There are a lot of people who are now asking for forgiveness. And asking for forgiveness is a good first step, but, well, it's a second step, because first you must resign and then ask for forgiveness.
It's because they're not us. Thing about it, they look at Latinos. I've been saying they look at them like Italians. To me, Latinos like new Italians, like dark-skinned people that are white adjacent or mostly white, have a culture that's foreign to Anglo-Saxon culture. But at the same time, though, when their first generation, when that baby get born here, and that baby can speak like a standard American English, that child is kind of looked at as a white, that child can easily associate and kind of mold in the white society. Latinos are the new Italians. They basically the new white people.
I get what you're saying, John, but you have to understand LA is even different because Latinos outnumber white people in LA. Like, if you include white Hispanics with Hispanics, they outnumber white people, especially like in LA. So this isn't even about them trying to be white. This is them using their Latino dominance and dominating as Latinos. This isn't even about whiteness. This is just about them being anti-Black racists.
No.
And
They
this
are
is just
anti-black racists, but they're able to assimilate into society. White people is not attacking them. White people attack other white people from the rip. They was on the Irish people ass. They was on the Italians' ass.
That's
Something happened where they just
either.
amalgamated and became white people out of nowhere. You feel me? I don't know. They just been here, but they started assimilating more into American culture. And I feel like that's why the whites are not, you know what I mean, that hostile towards them as to us.
That's not true, because the Latinos don't live with the whites the Latinos don't live with the whites in LA. They live with the blacks, or they live amongst themselves.
But
white people don't like
the Italians do too.
No, I'm telling you what LA is. I get what you're saying and I get where you're going with this, but I'm telling you, in LA, the white people ain't kumbaya with the Latinos like that. It's very segregated. The whites are off by themselves. The Latinos that live amongst the whites are like the blacks that live amongst the whites. There's a cherry few who can afford those multi-million-dollar houses. Everybody else is like segregated. And when the Latinos move in, they don't move in with the whites. They're not being accepted by the whites. They move into the black neighborhoods. The white people are only dealing with them on a service basis. That's it. They're not living next to them. I've had white people just come up to me in LA and just start talking to me about how much they fucking hate Mexicans or how they hated having a Mexican neighbor. Don't ask me why random white people just want to come up and talk to me about this shit. I don't know if they feel like there's a solidarity or what, but they'll literally come up and talk about how they don't like how they live, how they take care of their places, how they do that and the other. Like, white people do not like living around Mexicans in LA. So it's not like a thing where they're like, oh, it's all kumbaya, we're all one. Nah, it's not that. LA is a very segregated city.
I'm a very powerful person in many respects, particularly for a young kid from Borough Heights. I've been a state senator, traveled the world, I've spoken at the UN, I've met powerful people, I know powerful people. But when I'm out in public, I recognize that I'm, in the eyes of many, just another Mexican. And recently I went to go visit a friend of mine. I was taking some food, just walking in, they opened the door for this secure area, and I get confronted about not being able to enter the building. What am I doing? I mean, it was really offensive and very unfortunate, because it was here in my district. It was here in this great city of Los Angeles. But it's very evident that the people were the woman was trying to stop me from going forward because I was a Mexican.
This is a city that is half Mexican or Mexican American or Chicano. Then it's Central American, and then it's Latin American. And so we get this month to profile all the contributions, the cultural, the social, and the political contributions that are being made in the city. There's a lot of talent throughout our cities and in this city. All the dreamers, all the children of the essential workers of the city, their children have great contributions to make. That's why I was honored and so proud to pass the DREAM Act that enabled them to get scholarships. After they got admitted to our finest schools, like the UCLAs and the UC Berkeleys, et cetera, they were able to apply for the DREAM Act scholarship. And they have great contributions to make, and our city will benefit from it. And so that's why it's important to know our history, and that's why Hispanic Heritage Month is important to the city of LA.
Not unlike what we see in the nation today, where there are people who are struggling with changes in the economy, struggling with changes in demographics, find a comfort in racism and nativism, and who look to that in terms of trying to gain political advantage.
Yeah. So what this is like, this is not even like them pushing white supremacy or being advocates of white supremacy. This is a power grab for this group who is now the largest demographic out there. Yes. I mean, this is what would happen if they had power.
Yes.
And I think that's something we got to consider. Like, we can't just keep thinking like this is all, everybody is playing the white man game and that's why they're against us. Sometimes they're playing their own game and they're against us.
But they are playing their own game. Yes, the white people look down on Latinos. Yes. I'm talking about the way that society looks at it. The reason why they can move the way, just like white people don't like Jewish people. Even if they don't like them, they can still leave them to their own devices to do whatever the fuck they want to do. That's how I look at Latinos. I'm not saying that Latinos are looking at whites. Yes, they are doing Latino supremacy, of course. But what I'm saying is that it's easier to do. The white people was not on their ass like that. You know what I mean? Like, so the Italians, the Irish, the Jewish, even at one point in time, the Germans looked at the Latinos. They were kind of like, oh, I don't want no German. I want no nigga here, no German. So at the same time, to me, I look at these people as new Italians. I feel like what they're going to do, of course, they may be, within the white supremacy ranking, they're going to be ranked lower, but they still can have a certain influence over our society. And I think they know that, and this is the reason why they're able to get away with so much they get away with, because they were really a threat to white people, or white people didn't look at them as a buffer against us, then they will be more aggressive towards them. So that was my whole thing. I'm not disagreeing with nobody saying on the panel or nothing like that. I'm just saying.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think that, you're saying that, they're able to move in a certain way because they're seen as a buffer class. And I just think that what we're saying is like, I don't even think white people are in this conversation really. Like, it's not even, this is like a conversation between Latinos and us. When they are in power, how do they treat us? Like, I mean, I get, like, you're saying white people have a certain sway over things, and I totally agree with you. If it was the other way around, they would be trying to undercut us. Everybody would be trying to undercut us. If we were talking like this in a meeting, it would be Latinos, it would be the whites, it would be our own. We would not be on code. We would be not trying to justify this shit. We would quickly, like, let our people get thrown to the wolves. Like, that's how we would do it. Because we think we have to hold a certain moral standard and treat everybody with respect when other people don't feel that fucking way about us. But yeah, this I just think that, talking about the hierarchy in this conversation, the overall hierarchy in this conversation, I don't know if that's even what this is. This is Latinos oppressing us. This is what this is.
I think it's the Latinos using systemic racism. And this is proof that systemic racism doesn't impact everybody the same. Because Black people can't do this. We can't come up with years-long conspiracies to disenfranchise Latino voters. But you could just move here and do that to Black people. Doesn't matter where you came from. Just mattered that there was some Black people here already being oppressed. I think that's what John was getting at. Am I right on that, John?
Yes, you're right. Yeah, that's all I was saying. You're right. Thank you, brother. Think about it. People, before they move here, they look at the lens of America before they even get here. Like, they weigh their options out. How much money can I get over there? Where can I live at? This, that. Then you start looking at who's at the top, who's at the bottom. Okay. They weighed this whole shit out, man. It's not like all that shit they running and come on, man. They weighed this whole thing out. So they weighed this whole thing out. So when they come here, that racism kind of manifests. So it's not to take away no response. The niggas is already racist in their countries anyway. It's just they came into a new system, and the fact that their whole culture, they so mixed up, and they all Mazitos, and they mixed up with everybody, and they hold the way that we look at the race is hard lines where it's like you white or you Black. So that's the whole thing I'm saying with the Latinos. I look at them like Italians, like they new Italians. Like people look down on the Italians in white society. They got the criminality, but they can still float in the criminal world and get fucking and talk to politicians and shit like that. Man, Big Meech can't fucking talk to motherfucking Joe Biden, but the leader of the mob could.
In the early 1980s, the U.S. was still in a Cold War with Russia, and anti-communist sentiment was strong. During his presidential campaign, Reagan promised to assist anti-communist insurgencies around the world. For a brief time under Reagan, the CIA trained and assisted groups fighting communist leaders abroad. Reagan was particularly interested in a group called the Contras and their battle in Nicaragua. The Contras were a group battling the Cuban-backed Sandinistas, a communist group who had seized power in 1979. Reagan called the Contras the moral equivalent of our founding fathers. But much of the Contras' funding came from the cocaine trade. Because of this, Congress passed the Boland Amendment, specifically aimed at keeping American money from funding the group. That happened in 1982, shortly after Reagan took office. The amendment restricted the CIA and Department of Defense from using funds to provide military assistance to groups that were trying to overthrow Nicaragua's government, groups like the Contras. This didn't stop Reagan. The president told his national security advisor, Robert McFarlane, to help the Contras anyway, regardless of the cost.
Let's see what's the next thing. Oh, she want to give it a beat down?
Oh yeah, this is my favorite.
They're raising him like a little white kid, which I was like, this kid needs a beat down. Like, let me take him around the corner and then I'll bring him back.
Yeah.
¿Sí me entiendes? Ven para acá.
It's a pinch.
Yeah.
But he is, he's the fourth.
So anyways, getting back to redistricting.
Yeah.
So that's how they do black kids, huh? Because they don't do that to white babies. She was clear about that. White babies get to jump around as much as they like. But for a little black baby, we're going to take him around the corner, give him a little beat down. Let him know his place.
That's what it is.
A 2-year-old.
And I don't even have kids, but so you're mad that a 2-year-old was running around? You're mad that a 2-year-old is being a 2-year-old? Like, I don't have kids yet. So maybe when I have kids, maybe I'll become an asshole. But when I'm around other people's kids and they're like 2, 3, 4 and they running around, I'm not irritated because I'm around a child. And that's what kids do. They play, they have fun, they get to run around, like they get to express themselves. That's part of being like a small child. Like to see like a 2-year-old sitting in a corner like a muñeca doll, like a doll and not moving. I'm worried about what you're doing to this child to make it sit there like a muñeca, like a doll. Like kids are supposed to play. That's what kids do. Am I wrong? Some of us have kids, like y'all, some of y'all got kids. Tell me, because that's crazy.
Kids don't ever stop moving, especially when they're 2. But wasn't this a Martin Luther King Day float or something to that effect?
Probably. It was a black and brown float.
So like, out of everybody there, I feel like he had the most right to be having all the fun he wants.
Right? She was mad the white man was on the people of color float anyways.
I'm mad
I
she
guess
was
he
on it.
represents a black district.
I'm mad she was on it.
Conversation focused heavily on frustration with maps that were proposed for redistricting and concern over loss of economic assets in current districts. And there was talk about a float at a Martin Luther King Jr. parade in 2017. Council member Mike Bonin and his husband have an adopted black son. They were on that float. Nuri Martinez wasn't pleased with the atmosphere or the little boy. Mike Bonin says, "We are appalled, angry, and absolutely disgusted that Nuri Martinez attacked our son with horrific racist slurs and talked about her desire to physically harm him. It's vile, abhorrent, and utterly disgraceful. The city council needs to remove her as council president immediately, and she needs to resign from office." Nuri Martinez responds, quote, "In a moment of intense frustration and anger, I let the situation get the best of me. I hold myself accountable for these comments. For that, I am sorry."
I have always been told that the council will police itself. I think that Tuesday's council meeting will be one for the ages. It will be must-see TV.
That's for sure. Councilman Kevin De Leon is also responding to the story saying, quote, "There were comments made in the context of this meeting that are wholly inappropriate, and I regret appearing to condone and even contribute to certain insensitive comments made about a colleague and his family in private."
Yep, somebody called DHS because this lady needs to be investigated. Hope her kids are all right, because this is alarming. This is a civilized society. It's not, you're talking about beating kids and taking them around the corner. Like, what's going on?
Giving a beat down.
It's straight up like thug behavior towards innocent children that can't defend themselves. I don't know, y'all.
it's not about them. Essentially, it's about when you look at the higher levels of things, like these people get in positions of power and try to box our community out. You know what I mean? They try to box our community out of getting resources. Like that shit is crazy. Yeah, so this is the game that's going on. So we just hearing it out loud, but they been
Not
doing
to
it.
mention the racism that our Black kids are facing from Latino kids in these schools. Our few little Black kids that are left in these schools are being called niggers. They're being fucking hit with towels, pretending like they're being hit with whips. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And that's the stuff going on now. When I was in the late 90s, when my stepsister was in LA, they were having full-fledged fucking riots, Blacks versus Mexicans, in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Well, I'm not from LA. I listen to music that comes out from that way. Big Afro Man fan.
What's up?
I remember he was talking about what was going on in the jails, about like how the Mexicans don't really fuck with the Blacks in the jails. Now, me never being arrested out there, I don't really get all that. I never really understood the purpose until you start to meet these people and you like, nah, this is how they organize. They organize by not being Black. Like, it doesn't matter what Latin American country they came from, as long as they not Black, they don't fuck with y'all, oh, they together. Same concept as white people, it's just in Spanish.
And you know what's funny about these motherfuckers? These motherfuckers try to come over here and act like they oppressed like us and do all this other stuff like us. But these people, the way they look, like if we got our grandmother or great grandmother, like, is this person a white person or a Black person? Our grandma or great grandmother that been here doing Jim Crow, like, oh, they white. Somebody, even the brown one, the way they hair texture, like, oh, yeah, they white. Like, you know, like what? Because the racial thing is different. Like they have Black people in their countries and they treat them like shit. They treat them like shit. And what they try to do is they come over here and act like, oh, nah, you know, like we all speak Spanish. I'm like, yo, why are all the darkest people living in the fucking favelas and you like, what the fuck going on? No, it's a few light-skinned people over there too. Fine. It's the same thing with white poverty too. It's like it's white poor too. But the majority of these Black people live in these fucking shitty ass places. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck you? And you come over here and you think that's not going to translate into our society when there's a harder racial line where it was like this, either you Black or white. And then that's why a lot of the times, like the Filipinos, when we had, like America took Philippines as a territory, or Puerto Rico, or these people came, like these aberrations came in the early 1900s. These people taking off white. We have to.
AOC, that's a whole fucking white woman. I don't give a fuck that she habla español. That don't mean shit to me.
You know what's ill, John?
Yeah.
It's I don't even think it's the Latinos telling us they are oppressed. Because a lot of times, if you listen to them, they'll be like, oh, you have a victim mentality. They'll tell us that, you know, oppression is a figment of our imagination. It's the white people that are like telling us these people are oppressed groups because they don't understand the racial dynamics.
Exactly. And again, the only reason they're being oppressed is because the people in their country are oppressing them and they won't rise up and fight back. And miss me, don't talk to me about the geopolitics of your country. Black people have been fucked over. Our blood is drenched in this soil. We have died for every right that you take advantage of. So don't talk to me about what it costs and how much blood it costs to get some little bit of freedom.
But you saying oppressed in their country when that's only some of their stories. So a lot of their stories is that they were the oppressor. They just moved to fucking America.
And a lot of them are the business people and the people who could afford to move.
Yes, and then white people, just because they see that they are a little bit brown, look down on them and say they're an oppressed group, when in actuality, just because they're a little bit brown doesn't mean anything in their country. They're seen as white, and they're oppressing the Black people that are in their country.
Yep, facts. I was having this conversation with my Mexican homegirl the other day, but sometimes I find this hard having conversations with you first gens, and this is across the board.
my Ghanaian homegirl who's first gen, she's the only one who seems like she has a good, strong understanding of like her mother's ancestral home. So she just kind of has a better understanding. But talking to my Mexican homegirl, like she didn't even know what a conquistador was. But like I was just trying to talk to her, and I was like, because we were watching the Pablo Escobar thing together, because she helped me out with some stuff at the house. So we're watching, I've been watching Pablo Escobar on Netflix. I was like, when I look at, this person who we were looking at, I was like, I see a white person. She's like, oh, that's racist. I was like, I'm not being racist. I'm just saying, like, they always hit you with the, oh, well, race is different there. And I was like, okay, bet. But that person who has blonde hair and blue eyes and very pale skin would be treated different than somebody who looks like you, right? She was like, yes. And I was like, and you would be treated differently than somebody who looks like me, even though we would all come from the same country and speak the same language. She was like, yeah. And I was like, so when that person with that blonde hair and blue eyes comes here, can we at least admit that in this country, they're white people? She was like, yeah, in the US, they're white. So I don't care what they were at home, but when they come here, they're white people. If it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's a fucking duck. If you look like a white person, just because you speak Spanish doesn't make you non-white. You just happen to be closer bloodline to the invaders of that country.
And let's even say this, because it's a little bit blurred over there. You can be brown and still be considered white.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a different game over there. So, like, using our American lens, a lot of times we're not seeing what this really is. Or at least white people aren't seeing what this really is. We are seeing what this really is because we're getting the fucking treatment. We have these motherfuckers talking to us crazy. Because they talk to black people crazy in their fucking countries. That's what they do in their community.
I see these things. I've heard and been in proximity to these things my entire life. I've always grown up in communities where the Latino community was very adjacent and, a lot of shared experiences. And it does tend to, the common ground here is white supremacy, because it seems like some people in the Latino community feel like if we're white adjacent, maybe we will not be subjected to the same racism and prejudice. I want to show a clip from a great writer in The Atlantic who says, your whiteness will always be relative. She's directing this in the Latino community. You can utter as much garbage as you want about black people. You can vote Republican. You can lead the Proud Boys. You will never achieve whiteness. The gift bestowed upon Italians and the Irish isn't happening for us. So you can discriminate against black people and Afro-Latinos all you want. It won't make you white. It just makes you a racist person of color, a brown Clayton Bigsby, a fool. I echo those sentiments. Curious your thoughts this morning.
Well, I actually think that there is another layer to this. Some people within the Latino community do achieve whiteness. One, because they are white appearing. They favor more our European ancestors. And depending on their accent, their educational level, whether they actually have a recognizable Hispanic surname, that all those things enable a person to, I wouldn't call it passing, but seemingly just and seamlessly being able to pass into whiteness, or white Anglo whiteness, just as they have whiteness within Latin America and the Caribbean. So I guess what I would want to say is that despite this idea of all Latinos being brown, some browns are browner than others, and some whites are whiter than others. There are Latinos who are white, whether they have that personal identity or not. That's their socially ascribed race from others outside, and they get to move in that privilege as well.
But for some reason, we're running around talking black and brown when no one is addressing the fact that this is going on in their communities.
Did y'all peep in that Brianna video? How she was trying to do what she be doing with the racist white people? Like, oh, no, it's just economic. No, bitch, they're anti-black in their country, and the black people, they are the poorest motherfuckers around.
Even if it was just economics, as long as we're the poorest people here, What difference do it make? Like, if you racist because I'm poor, or you racist because you don't like my skin color, like, I don't care. We've already had this war.
And I come here tonight and plead with you. Believe in yourself and believe that you're somebody. And as I said to the group last night, nobody else can do this for us. No document can do this for us. No Lincolnian Emancipation Proclamation can do this for us. No Kennysonian or Johnsonian Civil Rights Bill can do this for us. If the Negro is to be free, he must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. As somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. There's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
I did want to say about these, I don't know if we want to get into the resignations just yet.
Well, let's do this little part where she starts going at the Oaxacans, because I did bring up that, you know, the Oaxacans came out, you know, a lot of Latinos showed up and showed out. Now, some might be mad because she pulled up their skirt, and others, you know, was mad because, you know, they don't want no problem with the blacks. Because there are some good Latinos in LA. I live next to them. Like my Watts house, I have great Latino neighbors. Even the ones that have lived there the shortest time have lived there since 1990. And the other one's been there since 1970. And my grandmother moved into the neighborhood in the 50s or the 60s. So yeah, we've been together a long time. They're wonderful people. They're great. But they don't represent the people who are in charge. So, but here we go. Let's just play this little part where they, you know, talking about the little people in K-Town.
Yeah, that's called K-Town.
Yeah, I see a lot of little short, dark people.
Yeah, puro Oaxacan, puro Oaxacan Koreans. Not even like Kevin, little ones.
I was like, no, I don't know where these people are from. I was like, I don't know what village they came, how they got here, but.
And then they're wearing shoes.
So one, I get what we have to do, right?
Dark
Just
uglies.
to create districts that benefit you all,
Yep.
right, and the future.
Yep.
But we got to figure out Mark's seat too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
And I'm
that
gonna take
benefits you
different.
three.
Because if the African Americans look at this, now that he might or may not be suspended, I don't know what's gonna happen. I think that he should be, but anyhow, if he goes away.
You mean resign, not suspended?
No, here's.
You're right, I see, yeah, there is a difference.
If I may.
If he resigns and the African Americans look at this as a hostile takeover because he's gone, we'll have to figure that shit out because politically they're gonna come after us.
Yeah, but can I say something right now? And this is what I call the ¿cómo se llama this guy? The movie, the Wizard of Oz effect.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by the Wizard of Oz effect is when you're on the side of the curtain, it's like this big voice.
An
It sounds
illusion.
big. And it sounds like there's thousands of them. And then when you actually pull the curtain, is that you see the little Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
You know what?
I've never watched the movie.
It's the same thing.
All right.
It's real simple. You got 100 people,
I
right?
think it's the
52
old
of them are
school
Mexicanos.
folks.
I
I'm
feel
not
pretty
even-
good about it. I feel pretty good about my chances of beating your ass.
25 are black. And the 25 blacks are shouting. And the
But they
52
shout like there were
Mexicans
250.
Yeah.
When there's 100 of us, when they're
Right.
like, it sounds like
So,
there's
but
10
that,
of us.
but that,
So they're basically having a whole discussion about carving up power from the city and, replacing the black man with the Latina that they replaced him with. And first they had to take some time to take a shot and call short Oaxacans ugly, dark uglies. And this is the leadership talking about, and when there's 25 of them, they sound like 100. Have you noticed how much these people of color groups hate us for actually fighting for the rights that they take advantage of being in this country? Wow, this part I love the most, called Oaxacans villagers. Yeah, so many levels. Like, it just reminds me of Archie Bunker, like that kind of like shots and stuff. Like, that's crazy.
An American history lesson. You don't know nothing about Lady Liberty standing there in the harbor with her torch on high, screaming out to all the nations of the world, send me your poor, your deadbeats, you filthy. And all the nations sent them in here. They come swarming in like ants. Your Spanish PRs from the Caribbean there. Your Japs, your Chinamen, your Krauts and your Hebes, and your England all of them come in here, and they're all free to live in their own separate sections. Where they feel safe, and they bust your head if you go in there. That's what makes America great.
And the whole, the Wizard of Oz effect, right? So they articulated what we already know that these black political elites do. I mean, they literally just ran the whole game plan down. We're going to get a puppet, 25 blacks would be shouting, they loud black asses anyway, and we outnumber them. I mean, it doesn't get any rawer than that. And I hope that our people understand that. Like, the game plan, everything is all mapped out. It's not a myth. It's not Illuminati. This is what they do.
And there wasn't no white boogeyman puppet master pulling the strings in this meeting. They really they were pushing us out and gleefully doing it while talking shit about us. This should be the wake-up call for everybody. How can these be our allies in any fashion or form? They don't see us as fucking allies. They see us as competition. They're not over there talking about, we got to make a coalition with the blacks. We gotta figure out a way to cut the blacks in.
Now they said, fuck that guy. He's with the blacks.
Exactly. You're not gonna this is not working. This is not working for us. This idea that just because people don't look like the white man that enslaved us, that they are on our side, is nonsense.
But these white leftists tell us we should be for open borders, Mud, because the global South is struggling and can whoop-de-woo.
Show me that how the global South gives a fuck about us. I don't see it. Millions of these motherfuckers are coming into this country, and I don't see them bolstering up the cause of Black America. If I'm wrong, show me, prove me wrong, and I'll admit it. I don't have a huge ego where I can't be proven wrong, but I need to see the coalitions. I need to see the policy. I need to see the work. What I'm seeing is fucking businesses where we're getting fucking discriminated against. We're getting the lower pay. We're being called monkeys and being told we got to go back to Africa. then we got fucking people working in politics who are trying to block us out of power while talking about they want to beat up black kids.
Don't forget the unions.
Yes, and the union leaders sitting in on all this shit.
So what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? If you come into my community talking about black and brown, I think you're the fucking enemy.
Yep. Definitely an op.
Because you need to go to their communities to talk about black and brown.
Facts. Where's La Raza at?
And they need to be coming into our communities talking about how can we help the blacks?
How can we make amends and help? Because y'all have been doing us dirt. And it just shows in the way that LA is.
And whenever somebody tells you, or you get a tape of somebody saying, I don't want this to seem like a hostile takeover, it's because it's a hostile takeover.
Facts.
So you'll start seeing them line up.
That's Nuri Martinez. She became the first Latina president of the LA City Council in 2019. She resigned after the Times published the audio recordings.
I'm not cutting that deal with anybody because I don't know. I don't know that he can win.
So what was the meeting about? Redistricting, the process of drawing lines that determine which voters vote for which representative. In LA, there are 15 council districts. Their boundaries get redrawn every 10 years, and the city council approves them. Which brings us back to that October meeting.
I mean, I'm hoping that you guys can all figure this redistricting out, because I just need you elected.
And this is Ron Herrera. He's the president of the most powerful coalition of unions in the country. He also resigned shortly after the audio tapes were made public. He talks about preserving power by creating favorable district lines.
I get what we have to do, right? Just massage to create districts that benefit you all.
The lines can be drawn to include valuable assets like universities and stadiums, as Martinez notes in this comment.
If you want to make like boss moves, I would go after the airport.
Martinez recalls a conversation she says she had with LA businessman Danny Bakewell, in which she recommended Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson take LAX away from fellow Councilmember Mike Bonin.
Go get the airport from his little brother, that little Bonin. I go, what is with the Bonin? What's with Bonin? I said, Bonin thinks he's black. That guy don't think he's black. I go, he thinks he's black.
She then goes on to attack Bonin's son, who is black. Bonin is white.
They're raising him like a little white kid, which I was like, this kid needs a beat down. Like, let me take him around the corner and then I'll bring him back.
Like, these motherfuckers had no motherfucking shame. Like, no one said, like, this is wrong. Like, you know, there's none of that. There's no, you know, I'm not really feeling this. I'm not with this. You know, maybe we should go about this a different way. There's none of that.
But this is how they ascended to power. This is the reason why they are even in power, because they figure out a way to play on the black-brown coalition, as well as like, you know what I mean? Thing about it, see that they're white adjacent enough to be like, you know what I mean? Like to be accepted by white people and give them, it's, be honest with you, they better than Obama. They be honest with you, I don't know how Obama, they better than Obama. They fucking weird looking people. Like to us, like, because you be like, you white or black. So like, you know what I mean? To us, like you come over here, it's like you're not white or black, and you don't look like us, that means that you can technically be white. You're a lower class white. So now you got to work your way up from being lower class white to being white. So, you know what I mean? Obtain as much resources as you can, because you came here to obtain as much resources as you can. And in order to do that, you got shit on Negroes.
It's funny how, like, we shame each other for being like any form of cutthroat when it comes to like other groups. But every other group is cutthroat when it comes to us. And when we say, even if we're not even like being cutthroat, when we say we need policies specifically for our needs, People tell us we're being fucking selfish. Why the fuck can't we be selfish? Why shouldn't we be self-interested? Everybody else is. And you like, I don't want to hear any black person coming to me trying to explain why we got to do something for any other group. When the fuck is this shit going to be reciprocated?
Nunca. Never.
I have a quick question for y'all. Which party is the party of racism again?
Facts. Both.
Yeah, I agree with
Because
you.
they keep telling me on the Democratic side, this type of thing can't happen. Like, there's no way a group of racists would like go out of their way to like essentially excise the entire black population of their city. There's no way a group of Democrats would do that. That just doesn't fit within our policy agenda, right?
That's just how the Democrats treat us. Like I said, the Democrats hate us. The white folks hate us. These Latinos hate us. We just the most hated people run around. Like Dr. Henry Clark said, we have no friends. But I sent you the LA Times article kind of about how the city's feeling. Because the rest of it is kind of we can keep going through it. But.
Immigrant population in America is nothing but interlopers, interfering with a 400-year plus war, and they don't care, but it's like, for me, it's like they don't understand what time it is. These people in this room talking crazy like this, do you think that we're going to give up our place that easily? Do you think that these white people are going to let you take their place that easily? It's another caveat. It's like, I don't know, what's on their biscuit, but it's not going to go well for them. And the other part about that is the cowardice behind this, because they're not attacking white districts. They're trying to take the little bit that we have. And they're talking big, but they're not attacking the white people. They're not, conspiring to take the white people's districts. That's that punk ass shit.
De Leon was most recently a candidate for the mayor of Los Angeles. Their disdain for Mike Bonin may be explained by this statement from De Leon.
Mike Bonin won't ever say people are Latinos. He'll never say word about Latinos.
It serves us to not give her all of Cape Town, because if you do, that solidifies her renters district, and that is not a good thing for any of us.
On the tape, Martinez, Cedillo, and De Leon plot to cut fellow council member Nithya Raman's district to their advantage.
She is not going to help us. Her district is not a district we can count on.
So you're saying that's the one to put in the blender and chop out left and right?
Well, that's what they did.
Yeah.
The conversation is laced with coarse comments and insults about colleagues and LA residents. Here's Martinez talking about a Jewish associate.
The Judíos cut their deal with South LA. That's how I see it. And they're going to screw everybody else.
And an assembly member of Armenian descent.
The guy with the one eyebrow.
And the Oaxacan population.
Yeah, that's called Cape Town.
Yeah. I see a lot of little short, dark people.
Yeah.
So why does all of this talk about race and redistricting matter? Because representation is power. The scandal also raises questions that some politicians, even those in one of the most diverse cities in the world, use racism to attack anyone standing in the way of their agenda.
I think we finally found Juan Crow. Who knew it was in LA all this time?
Juan Crow was in LA. Can you explain Juan Crow to us, Joey? Because I don't know what Juan Crow is. What is Juan Crow?
I didn't know what Juan Crow was for a long time. But from what I was originally told, this is back during the black and brown days, if people really believe that shit, that brown people were apparently discriminated against through a system called Juan Crow. But I just don't believe that. What I believe happened is brown people have been instituting their own little Juan Crow systems here and throughout the United States, where they can set themselves up quite nicely. Oh, you ain't got a driver's license? You don't even go here? That's fine. You can hang out. Oh, is that a Negro crossing the street wrong? Oh, you going to jail for life. And that's just what I've been seeing personally. I mean, It's
seen that too.
anecdotal.
Even when I talk to our most liberal, the boomer parents is Democratic, saying stay out the way. We have to do this coalition to get something out the coalition. I'm like, we ain't getting nothing out the coalition, ma. We hurting. Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? But they're not white. Well, not fuck that. They act like white people. They want to be white. They moving just like them, and they do anything to come up just like them. We're not like them.
This is Los Angeles. We were born at El Pueblo, what was a very small Mexican city, which became the largest city in all of California to the second largest city in all of America. So the very fact that almost half of the population of the city of LA is Latino is quite significant, because the contributions have been enormous. The cultural contributions, the artistic contributions, the athletic contributions, the scientific, academic, amazing food. But I can say this with a sense of absolute confidence, being the youngest child of a single immigrant mother, worked her fingers to the bone, cleaning the homes of the wealthy.
Well, behind me, tents, signs, food, drink, even a porta potty. Protesters say they're not going anywhere until De Leon and his colleague Gil Cedillo resign. Meantime, the city council's acting president is turning up the heat on the two men.
No more. KDL is anti-black.
Protesters, activists have essentially moved into the neighborhood here at Kevin De Leon's Eagle Rock home. And they won't move out, they say, till he and Gil Cedillo add their names to the list of those who've resigned.
Resignation!
Los Angeles knows that these individuals have no business representing us, have no business in positions of leadership.
All right, for Black Angelinos, recording stokes anger, fears of losing hard-fought gains. Watching the news in her View Park home, Helen Ray sat in a stunned disbelief as she listened to now infamous tape of 3 Los Angeles City Council members and a labor leader privately strategizing about redistricting. It wasn't the casual racist rhetoric that upset her most. It was the topic. They sounded as if they were planning a backroom deal to disenfranchise Black voters. This feels like a betrayal almost akin to Jan 6, said Ray, 76. Donald Trump tried to overturn the election results and discount Black votes so that he could be reelected president. Now I feel the same kind of betrayal coming from city council members. It's hurtful to know that these people don't care about the whole LA, she said. To Black residents across the city, the words on the year-old tape hit like a gut punch when the news broke Sunday. Around dinner tables, in coffee shops, beauty salons, bookstores, and group chats, they decried the derogatory language leaked onto audio recording and vented about what sounded to them like scheming to weaken the limited political power they fought for generations to acquire. On a quiet Tuesday afternoon at SO1 Books, a beloved Lamert Park bookstore that is served as a conduit for the Black community to have conversations about race and other social issues for more than 3 decades, co-owner James Fugate was talking about the recording with a longtime customer. The real question is, are there people in the wings with the moral fiber necessary to move forward, said Clint Rosemont of Inglewood, as he sat at the checkout counter inside the Bear bookstore, which is set to close by the end of December, because these 3 are bottom feeders. These people are corrupt, Fugate responded. I think all 3 of them are going to have to go, he added. It's just a matter of time, 82-year-old Roseman said, shaking his head. City Council President Nuri Martinez, who was caught on tape using the most derogatory language of the group, resigned Wednesday. It's one of the biggest political scandals I've heard in years. But to me, it's like, okay, Fugate told a Times reporter, this is what needs to come out because people need to know. For some Angelinos, the politician's remarks were hurtful to hear, but they took it as the mindset of 4 people and not a population. Other residents said the leaked audio exposes fissures that many thought were healed decades ago as LA's Black and Latino residents and elected officials united to fight problems plaguing both of their communities. Latinos make up.
Hold on, pause. Hell, I don't know where they got that. A lot of people realize that this is what we've been thought it was. Nothing was healed. When was shit healed? Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. I'm like, when do these peace treaties be happening? I just don't get the memo or nothing. Hey, we gotta heal the city. Wow. But let's see. Latinos make up for half the city's population, but since Martinez's resignation, occupy only 3 of the city's 15 council seats. At the same time, the Black population has declined over the decades to 9%, as more people have moved to the suburbs and out of the state for cheaper housing, better schools, and job opportunities. Still, 3 historically Black districts now have significantly Latino populations, have elected Black council members to the dais. All right, so Kerman Maddox, a veteran political consultant in the city, was getting ready for church early Sunday morning when he received a link to an audio recording. The voices rising from his phone sounded distinct and familiar. Martinez, County Labor Leader Ron Herrera, and council members Kevin De Leon, Gil Cedillo, one of his good friends. It was like a stab in the back, Maddox said. Over 3 decades, the two had joined forces to bring their communities together. The civic call to service brought Maddox and Cedillo shoulder to shoulder at church services, labor events, and on the campaign trail. But now there was his friend on tape participating in a conversation in which Martinez talked about her white colleague's Black son, saying, "He looks like a monkey." I don't do Spanish.
Yeah, it's pareche changuito. Yeah. Pareche.
Or looks like a monkey. As she said this, De Leon and Cedillo chuckled and cracked jokes. I was shocked and disappointed when I discovered Cedillo was not only part of those discussions, but didn't intervene to stop it and reprimand his colleagues for such behavior, said Maddox. That betrayal feels much deeper because it was done by friends you've known for years, not strangers from distant places.
I'm mad he's still calling his friends. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, Vlad. Ooh.
I was just going to say, these are not your friends. And he went in there on the campaign trail thinking this was Black and brown. And they obviously was thinking this is just the brown thing. So this is the game that's getting played on us. We are the ones that are bending over backwards trying to accommodate other groups. And they don't really give a fuck about us.
They want to beat your kids. Maddox, who's working on Rep. Karen Bass's mayoral campaign, said that Black politicians work hard to build a coalition with their Latino neighbors. That's how they have
to build coalitions with us. And Karen Bass don't give a fuck about Black people.
And that's how they've handily won their elections in districts where Latino residents hold a majority. Anthony Jolly, owner of Hot and Cool Cafe in Lamert Park, said it's appalling that the 3 council members' mentality is not to move forward in unity with Black and brown people. We both have the same fight, he said in this spacious coffee shop. Both communities are fighting for decent wages, a decent place to live, and trying to exist in a changing LA. So that's why it's so shocking to hear from that individual, Jolly added, referring to Martinez. Given the conversation captured on the recording took place last October, Sean Mabry, 50, said he's concerned about the decisions that the politicians have made since then. Other people suffered behind her comments, Mabry said, referring to Martinez as he stood in front of a mural of beloved late rapper and community activist Nipsey Hussle and his friend's outdoor pop-up shop called Crenshaw by Nature in the Crenshaw district. Hussle's music blasted from a nearby speaker. When people vote you in, they're thinking they voted in somebody that's non-biased and that you're gonna and that you're going by the rules and regulations of the office that you've been appointed to. Not to mention you being president, Mabry said. You're supposed to be looked at a higher plateau than everybody else. And if anybody else has those types of views under you, then you're supposed to have gotten rid of them ASAP. Sharice Cryer was so outraged by what she heard from the elected officials on the leaked recording that she filed a complaint Tuesday with the Federal Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. The 42-year-old attorney saw the news that the state's Justice Department is investigating the redistricting process, but she worries that political ties might influence that process. I want the real guns to come in and look at this stuff. I agree with her. You cannot allow anti-Blackness to say, said Cryer, who's a downtown resident. Racism is a cancer and it will taint and disease anything that it touches. So they cannot stay. But more than what they expressed there was possible gerrymandering. I believe that was the tip of the iceberg, she added. If they're speaking openly, having dinner table conversation in what they probably thought was a business meeting, and there's anti-Black rhetoric, and they're talking about redistricting along color lines, can you imagine the other types of conversations or text messages, whatever they might have?
I completely agree.
I'm with her 100%. Cryer wants to know whether Martinez, Cedillo, or De Leon passed or vetoed any resolution or acts due to race during their time on city council. At the end of the day, there's a lack of trust. You're not there to represent the people. You're there to represent your people. As a political science major who's already wary of high-profile politicians, Nicole Nwanko said the recording validated her decision to pursue a career in law instead of politics once she graduated from USC next year. I just feel like I almost have a sense of pessimism towards politicians, she said. I still want to be a realist and be like, not every politician is out to just be a crony and sabotage society or whatever. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I feel like politics is a machine, and able to succeed, and to be able to succeed in politics, you have to play into the machine, and you have to do certain things that your constituency might not always agree with, but that's how you get to the next point. She added that that's ultimately why morally it's just not for me. All right. So Ella Robinson grew up in a racially diverse neighborhood in Compton in the late 1940s and the early 1950s, and doesn't recall being called derogatory names. Now, listening to the leaked recording, the 76-year-old retired nurse said that the politician's comments about Councilmember Mike Bonin's black son were the hardest to hear. It's a sad thing for a woman to call the baby a monkey. Robinson of West Adams said, sitting inside of Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall. That's a shame. That really hurt me more than anything else, because when you call him a monkey, you're calling me a monkey. Robinson, whose husband is Panamanian, added, I hope they lose their jobs because they don't work for the public anymore. They don't deserve to be there. In View Park, Ray is as upset as she was when she first heard the recordings. A retired government worker. She's been having tough conversations with her children and grandchildren about how Black people have fought for a representation or the proverbial seat at the table so that their concerns, interests, and voices are reflected in policies and legislation. She urged them to get involved by voting and participating in government. Maybe my time has passed, she said, but darn it, their time is now, and they need to do something.
Also calling for Cedillo and De Leon to resign. Their fellow council member, we have him here in studio tonight, Marquise Harris Dawson of South LA.
Councilman, thanks for being here, especially on this week, this historic week in Los Angeles. What do you make of the fact that they haven't resigned yet? What is that about? Is this about money? Is this about ego? Is it about power? Is it about stubbornness? What's happening behind the scenes?
I think it's about all those things. I think people really delude themselves into thinking I'm not a racist. And, I've been misunderstood, and maybe if I take more time, I can explain it away. And I think the more people come out and the more people are clear with them, I think they'll come and do the right thing.
When you heard the recordings yourself, knowing that these are your colleagues, was this a surprise? Or you know how when you know your colleagues, how they carry themselves differently in front of the camera versus behind closed doors? You've seen that behind closed doors. So was this a surprise, or had you seen this?
You see glimpses of it. I never thought the intensity of it existed, and I thought that there was sort of light touch, maybe a bad joke here or a microaggression here. I didn't think that they were full bore, like openly anti-black and indigenous and gay and all the rest.
And Armenian and Korean and Jewish.
It was a full trail mix of offenses in the group. Yeah.
And they even referenced you at one point. I'm sure you want to hear this again. Let's play this.
So getting back to Marquise, I told Danny, if you want to cut a deal and if you want to make like house moves, I would go after the airport. He goes, I know that idea. I said, tell Marquise,
So
go take it from his friend.
Don't go
after. Leave him alone. Go get the airport from his little brother, that little bonnet.
How is that for black people?
I go, what is with the Bonnet? What is with Bonnet? And I said, Bonnet thinks he's black. That guy don't think he's black. I go, he thinks he's black. I told her the same thing.
So this is talking about redistricting potentially the airport. They talked about the fact that there's a lot of money of having the airport in your district. We've had conversations about redistricting reform now. Is that going to happen? Where are we at on that?
I think we were headed towards redistricting reform with or without this scandal because the last process left us such a bad taste in everyone's mouth, even without knowing about this tape. I think we'll absolutely have it now, and it'll take politicians out of the position of having to be fighting for voters that they want, that are favorable to them and their friends, and trying to get their opponents to get voters that they don't want.
So that starts is that going to be a ballot measure in 2024?
It has to be a ballot measure in 2024. That has to be a charter reform. I think there are a number of charter reforms that we probably need to look at, up to and including what the role of the council president is overall.
Have you spoken to De Leon, Cedillo, Martinez?
I spoke to De Leon and Cedillo for a hot second on the council floor. It didn't go well, so I walked away.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, I told him, I said, guys, you got to leave the room. And Gil Cedillo and I both had a back and forth because at one time he was an organizer, I was a community organizer, and there was a big crowd there. And he's telling me, well, they've got to control their crowd. When we were organizers, we controlled our crowds. And I said, Gil, you don't understand the magnitude of what's happening here. That was yesterday. This is today. New ball game.
How much do you think that this set the council back? How do you go on? How do you recover? How do you do your job and be trusted as a council member?
Look, I think the council has to do a lot of work to clean this up and to build trust. First, we got to stop the slide into cynicism and sort of distrust. We got to do that first. Then we got to put some things in place to begin to turn it around and get it to go back the other directions. But, it's incalculable what these people cost the Los Angeles City Council right on the tail of, three indictments. I worked in South LA for all my adult life. I feel like more people got arrested around me being on the city council than they did when I was in the neighborhood.
I think it's sad that so many Black Angelenos were surprised by this. And I just think people haven't been paying attention because I think a lot of Black people, their property values have gone up and they haven't had to leave the city and they haven't really looked around and realized how many other people's families and kids have had to leave. This didn't surprise me in the least because I tried to get into the union. I wanted to do construction. I was trying to be a carpenter. And even when I was doing that, when I was going to school, my Mexican homegirl, the one who I said, we were talking about, the racism in her community, she told me the union guy who was supposed to be helping us with that, he told her and the other, Mexican girl, La Rosa, Primero La Rosa, he was going to help them first, that's they folks. And I've had, like I said, I've been lucky enough to have good Latino friends who keep me in the loop about what goes on in their communities. I learned y'all was racist from y'all people. So yeah, that shit, I just don't understand why so many of us were surprised. This black and brown shit ain't never really been it.
Well, I think it's one thing. Well, it's a couple of things. If you look at some of the ages of the people they were quoting, these are like really older people. They might like, if you think about it, the majority of the Latinos that are here now got here within like the last 40 to 60 years.
Yeah, the 70s, starting from the 70s on. And they've really gotten heavy in the past since the 80s.
Yeah, so in a lot of their prime years, they probably didn't have a lot of interactions. But also, it's another thing when like politicians are sitting there, you know, just so openly doing this type of shit, like they don't think there's going to be any consequences. Where it, like the woman said in the article, they feel so comfortable doing this in this instance. Well, what else is out there? Because this is probably not their worst moment. What is the shit they're saying when nobody's around?
I mean, they're acting like this is a one-off instance of these people getting together. You know how many conversations that went just like this, like within their time in office, and all those people, whoever their comrades in this messed up, backwards struggle that they're in. Like, dog, man. I mean, just think about it. And so I think that's the conditioning of keep putting that narrative out there, like this one singular situation, instead of amplifying the fact that this had to have been thousands of situations, thousands of, conversations with this particular group of people. It's like us chatting, busting it up. They were comfortable.
And the leaked recording of her using racist remarks to describe a colleague's black son. She said today she's taking a leave of absence, but there are others, Senator Padilla, Mayor Garcetti, who have called for her to resign. Has the president followed this? Does he have a reaction to what's going on?
Yes, he's followed this, spoke to him about it yesterday. Look, the president is glad to see that one of the participants in that conversation has resigned, but they all should. He believes that they all should resign. The language that was used and tolerated during that conversation was unacceptable, and it was appalling. They should all step down. And here's the difference between Democrats and MAGA Republicans. When a Democrat says something racist or anti-Semitic, we hold Democrats accountable. When a MAGA Republican says something racist or anti-Semitic, they are embraced by cheering crowds and become celebrated and sought after endorsements. Senator Tuberville, let's not forget, this just happened, saying black people commit crimes.
Speaking of messaging, Alabama Republican Senator Tommy Tuberville hit the stage at former President Trump's rally in Nevada last night. And, well, let's just roll the tape.
They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit. They are not owed that.
Go ahead. I don't think I've called on you in a while.
Yep. Oh, thanks, Bree. Question for you about this report out of California on reparations. I was wondering if the president has seen it and if he would use it to guide any sort of executive action, since I think the last thing he did on reparations was say that he supported the study that Congress is potentially wanting to
So
pass.
his stance on reparations and supporting the study hasn't changed. I have not seen the California report, but his personal, his stance, policy stance has not changed on reparation.
This is all right. So I'll say this. This is my final thought. Sam, be quiet for the rest of the night. This is my whole thing. When it comes to Latinos and black relationship in this country, like historically, we can see that they came here to get a better opportunity. They came here, and not only that, they came here and fought to make the country more comfortable for them. Like it wasn't like so all this black and brown and black people get beat up by police, but I still want to make sure that Latino culture is celebrated. It wasn't that Like, and then when black people fight for Latinos, maybe black people do the same thing. Like, we need black and Latino shit to be celebrated together. These people do not do that. So at the end of the day, it's just a manifestation of that.
Yep, we need to take a page off their book, John.
So that's why you said there ain't nothing wrong with that. There is. You over here coming over here acting like your shit matters. You know what I mean? It's like, yo, you on a battlefield, here these come. The fuck is that? It does matter, motherfucker. Like, I'm not calling you a motherfucker, but I'm saying, like, it does matter, man. Because they don't care about us. We don't even need to tone police our language like that. Like, dog, it does fucking matter. You coming over here setting up shop, ignoring our fucking struggle. You know what I mean? It's like we human shields. That's what it is. We're human shields for all these motherfuckers that aren't white coming here.
You know what? You ain't lying. It does matter. Because it's affecting us. Not only this is a social thing, that like it's a Negrito child, but these people was in the meeting trying to divert resources and redistrict in a way like a fucking white Southerners would do. This is basically like we had the Mississippi episode with a Mississippi white person talking that wild shit, and we wasn't surprised. Like this Latino shit is the same shit. Like we not surprised, and I think other people are surprised, and they shouldn't be surprised, especially our own people. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like I want to insert that kind of feeling in all Black America. Like, this is our country, man. And I feel like people saying it's not our country, it's white supremacist thing in order to dilute our power. That's why MLK was trying to be like, you American. You're American because all the laws say we American and we need to be American. You know what I mean? Like, so at the end of the day, you ain't lying, man. You ain't lying. It's not like I'm giving them a pass. It's me saying like, you know what? We're going to just do what you do. That's it. We're going to just do what you do. And we're going to, because we Black Americans, you already know, once you put our mind to something, nigga, it's over now. Like, nigga, man, fuck you. Do what you do. You can't come to my school no more. You can't do that. We're going to box you out. We're going to just respect you, just like you do to us. Like, it's respectful. Like, let's come together when it makes sense. But when it comes to my group of people, I'll box you the fuck out. And they've been doing this shit historically for years. And, you know, I mean, there's no Black and Brown coalition. And we have no friends.
Facts. And on that note, we outie. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Don't be surprised that there's a bunch of anti-Black racists running around here in the POCs. Stop calling yourself a person of color if you're a Black person. And stop with this Black and brown shit because they ain't practicing that shit. That's it. That's all I got.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out we're really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings, we are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one, cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire, anti-Black, we pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country, the win. You need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out we're really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
Good evening to you. For days, we've been waiting to hear from embattled City Council members Kevin De Leon and Gil Cedillo. A short time ago, De Leon broke his silence. In an exclusive interview with Univision, De Leon saying he has no plans to resign despite being heard in a leaked racist audio recording about redistricting. The controversy is the result of a conversation De Leon had last year with council members Nury Martinez and Gil Cedillo, as well as former Labor Union Federation President Ron Herrera. Martinez can be heard making racist comments about Councilmember Mike Bonin's young black son. De Leon is heard joking after those derogatory comments about Bonin's child. Here's a portion of what De Leon said to Univision.
I fell, that's simple, 100%. My silence was a lack of leadership. And that's why I continue asking for forgiveness to the different communities that are hurt and affected with my hurtful words.
Councilman Mike Bonin responding in a statement moments after De Leon's interview saying, quote, Kevin De Leon's comments are gaslighting of the highest order. He describes cruel and dehumanizing remarks about a child as, quote, flippant. He says he should have, quote, intervened as if he were a mere bystander to a racist conversation in which he played a central and ignominious role. Kevin De Leon has the opportunity to atone and seek forgiveness one day from all of Los Angeles and from the black community and from my son in particular. But that starts with his resignation from the city council. No matter what he says today, his comments on that tape make clear he is unfit for office in this city. You cannot be part of the healing as long as he refuses to resign. His stubborn refusal to do what everyone else knows is necessary is deepening the wound he inflicted on Los Angeles. And if you come back to us live, we can tell you that council members Martinez and Labor Union President Ron Herrera did in fact resign last week amid intense public pressure. Council members De Leon and Gil Cedillo still on the job tonight. And again, De Leon is refusing to resign. We have made numerous attempts to contact Mr. De Leon and Cedillo, but neither have returned our requests for comment. Live in the News Center, I'm John Fenolio. I'll send it back to you in the studio.